Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals YouTube channel. My name is Samaria. This is my best friend and co-host Miosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 15, episode 10. And
Mhm.
boy, was this an episode. But before we get into that, guys, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. More people are watching our videos than are subscribed. So please, if you haven't yet, just go ahead and hit subscribe. And we want to let you know that we do have a podcast and new episodes drop every Friday. I'll go ahead and link that and pin it in the comments down below so you guys can check out our podcast if you enjoy our dynamic. All right.
All right.
So let's get through these couples so we can get to Morgan and Ben. All
I know, right?
right. Lindy and Miguel, what did you have on them?
Feel like Lindy is using this whole I'm emotionally unstable, I lash
Mhm.
out as a way to control Miguel.
Mhm.
And she said something like, "Oh, I just need for Miguel to just keep accepting me and keep doing what he's doing for this to continue to work."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, girl, like I don't know if this is the right way to be going about this. Like,
Right.
it's only but for so long that he's going, I guess, to play nice or go along to get along.
Hmm.
But I just feel like she's using this as a way to kind of control the situation. Like, long as you're good, you don't have to see the worst of me or how bad it can get. If
Mm.
you're on your best behavior, I'll be on my best behavior. But why can't you just be on your best
Best
behavior,
behavior.
period?
Girl, Miguel is funny to me when she was like, yeah, because he hasn't seen the worst of me. And he was like, I haven't. Like, it gets worse than that. This man is not here for the shenanigans.
And she was so awkward, like, you haven't seen the worst of me, and just like laughing about it, like,
Yeah.
you're so silly. It was
Yeah.
kind of creepy.
Girl, he's like, if it gets worse than this, I might be out. He doesn't want to see the worst of her. And she shouldn't be bragging about showing it at some point. Like I just yeah, but
Mm.
I don't know. I didn't have too much on them. I thought that he felt she was being negative when they were going through the album.
She was, but they're both pessimistic because he said something like, "Oh, it's a stone, maybe not a milestone, but it's a stone."
Yeah.
Like, both of y'all are giving this glass half full energy, so
Hmm.
whatever. Maybe that's what y'all have in common. I will say though, I feel like Miguel may reach a point where he's like, okay, well, really, what am I getting from this? Like, a lot of the conversations have been about what she needs and what she wants and the healthcare and this. Like, yeah, he asked about the name thing, but I think it was just more of a response. Like, okay,
Hmm.
if we're headed in that direction, then that's something I need. But he stayed cooking. He gave in on the health insurance thing. He's been trying to keep her calm. She said that her anxiety is the lowest that it's ever been.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, girl.
I feel like all Miguel really needs is for her to chill. And she can't even
Mhm.
like she can't give that. So I do wonder how it's gonna play out because it doesn't seem like he needs much.
Mm-mm.
Or at the very least, like the thing that he needs seems to be the one thing that she might not be able to give him in the long run if he doesn't adapt. So yeah, I don't really know, but they were kind of boring tonight or last
Also,
night.
long term, I would be nervous about how her and that sister are gonna click or lack thereof, just because Miguel may be giving calm energy and very understanding, but I don't know. I could see her getting into it with the sister. I can
Yeah.
just
And
foresee
the
that.
friends, because they're already side eyeing her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
All
let's
right.
keep it moving.
Kristen and Mitch.
Oh gosh. I wonder what Kristen does for a living because she really knows how to serve up the compliments and then
Kristen's really sweet. So I think they were the only couple that went on a road trip for their
Mhm.
anniversary, which it might have been Kristen's idea. But I cannot believe Mitch ever complains about Luna, where he was making all those noises when he was stretching.
Girl, let's get back to her conversation with a friend though.
Yeah.
Let's start there because I don't know, Kristen. I understand that you don't want to start off bashing your husband. Like you want to acknowledge the good things.
Yes.
However, it's almost confusing because you're like, oh, I just feel like this is what marriage is and how good
Yeah.
it is. And then it's like, all right, well, girl, let me give you the real. It's like, okay, well, why even serve it up that way? Why do the most knowing that you're going to tell her that like, hey, he's kind of like hurt my feelings on something that's really important to me. So
Mm-hmm.
that whole conversation, I was just like, okay, girl, just be honest. And I'm not saying you can't compliment him or acknowledge the good that he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
but I really feel like she puts on and then she like goes for it.
Yeah, she also confused me because she said she thinks it's a good marriage. And then her friend
Mhm.
goes, oh, so do you think they got you a good match? And that's when she's like, well, hold on, because no. I'm like, I don't get it. Why one and not the other? Like what makes you think it's a good marriage when you know it's not a good match? How
You
can it be
know,
a good marriage without being a good match, I guess?
You know what I think it is now that
Hmm.
I'm talking through it with you
Hmm.
is that I think they have moments where they have a lot of fun together. It's chill, it's good. He's probably showing up as a good husband, quote unquote, but then he has these like very opposite moments. And I feel like she's struggling with, okay, are the good moments maybe they're outweighing them because they're not having huge blowups every day. So that's why she's like, oh, it is a good marriage overall. But like when the blowups happen or the differences are there, they're so bad that she's like, oh, it's not a good match.
I don't know. I think what she said following that was very telling. So she
Mm,
said it seemed like he wanted her to rethink what she wants to do. And she's 32 years old. So it's like you can't come into somebody's life at 32 and think that you can change what their dreams are. Like she's probably thought about this for quite some time. So I think the friend was very spot on when she said,
mhm,
it sounds like there's a lot of pieces of you that he's not valuing, or there are a lot of
mhm,
pieces of you that he wishes might be different. And I
mhm,
thought that hit the nail right on the head. And because much didn't happen with them this episode, I do want to get to the dinner at the end
mhm.
because I was surprised that she can't. It just didn't seem like, based on everybody who spoke before her, it didn't seem like that was the direction of the dinner.
Mhm,
And so she just started talking, and then she started talking. I
mhm,
think it maybe just happened in that moment. Like she's been thinking it through and started
mhm,
talking. I was like, you know what? This is my moment. Like I've had enough and I need to express this. So
mhm.
I don't know that it was the most appropriate place to have that, but I think because it's Kristen and we're all just kind of tired of Mitch and his Mitchisms, we're
Mhm.
like, okay, Kristen, go ahead.
And
Like,
she did say that, oh, you're an incredible man. I mean, she
yeah,
always starts off so high. It's like a boss in a performance review where it's like, I'm going to say all the things you're
sandwich.
doing well
Yeah.
and then humble you a few notches.
And then end with
Yeah.
something positive because like she does. I think it's called the compliment sandwich, where you compliment,
Mm-hmm.
hit them with the negative, then end with a another compliment. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It was just not. It didn't seem like the right time to do it. But I will say, as much as I do not like Mitch as a match for her, I really did like how he handled the situation, because if it were someone else, it could have escalated. But she expressed herself, and he was open to that. He was very receptive. It wasn't, why are you calling me out in front of these people? Because he could have felt that way, but he
And
didn't.
I agree,
Hmm.
but I wrote down that I wish he would have channeled that energy on Shirtgate. Like, I'm not understanding why a shirt is what sends you over the edge in terms of not compromising
Hmm.
and you like embarrassing your wife essentially.
Yeah.
But this situation, you're able to get it in that moment and be like, okay, I'm just going to support her on this. So,
Yeah, I think because I don't know how he's justifying it, but Shirtgate did have to do with more of him participating in something, whereas this
mhm,
was just an expression of feeling. But I could have seen it go the other way, where that is kind of upsetting, you dragging me like this, especially when the other couples who went before us didn't take it that far. But I
mhm,
did get some respect for him in that moment, because I love that he said, I want her to be able to express herself. I want her to feel like I'm just me, and she doesn't have to bear the brunt of this relationship. So I still don't want them to end up together, but I do
Mhm.
think that's a quality in Mitch that I hope the other husbands took note of.
I will say that so she made a comment leading up to their retreat weekend away that she didn't want that weekend to be too heavy. And seeing the dinner scene later on, I wish she had flipped it because I'm thinking, no, y'all do need to be spending your time wisely and having these deep, nitty gritty conversations. So,
Yeah.
one, you really have an understanding of what he's willing to compromise on or not. So,
Mhm.
seeing that scene, I'm just like, girl, that's the conversation that should have been had at the retreat, maybe after the yoga session or whatever. But and I understand her wanting to have some fun moments, but I get the sense with the both of them that they're not really scratching below the surface. And when they do, it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
There's a slight disagreement. So she's just like, well, let's just table it. Let's not
Keep the
dig too deep.
peace.
And I'm like, girl, no, you need to get a clear understanding. If you're still on the fence, you need to be digging as deep as possible so
Mhm.
you know who you could be potentially saying yes to, given that you see that he has an issue with like compromising on certain things.
Yeah. I do want to say this just in general. I think the couples are meeting up way too much. I think
Mhm.
that's why they feel like they need to be involved in each other's relationships so much, is because there's too much interaction with them. There's too much, it seems like, comparison. It's not a comparison of notes at this point. It's like, and it never was with this group. Like, I feel like they came out pretty heavy out the gate. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think they're meeting too much with each other and not enough with the experts. And that imbalance is not good for any of them. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm glad the experts are coming next episode,
Mhm.
but yeah, I do hate that. Almost every episode, it's a group outing. For what? This is not find me a friend. It's not.
That and I agree, but because they're all living in the same building, right?
Mhm.
I think we may just be seeing more of them meeting up on
Yeah.
camera. And I think in past seasons, they've been meeting up because they're in the same building.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't need to be, they're going to see each other anyway. They don't need
Mhm.
to do these organized, oh, let the group come together and all talk about what's
Mhm.
going on. Like group therapy sessions minus the therapist. That's what I
Mm.
think is unnecessary. And
Good point.
we don't need to see that as much,
Mhm.
but I mean they usually are eventful with this group. So it gives
Mhm.
us something to talk about, but from a marriage perspective, I don't know that it's helpful.
You know what I'm wondering if the
Mhm.
scene at the honeymoon, that dinner, tipped production to be like, let's get these
You know
people together
what?
more often. Like there's some tension here that can, bring up
Yeah.
some good scenes and dialogue. I don't know, something about that tells me, like, especially the way Stasha was coming from Miguel and Lindy,
Yep.
like that whole situation, I feel like they may have been like, there's
There's some
something here,
shade here.
yeah,
Enough
that we
shade to
can
last the whole
capture.
season. Yeah.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was Kristen and Mitch.
Yeah, I
So
still do want her to continue to keep speaking up for herself.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do appreciate when she speaks up. And even how after he accepted her like expression, she's like,
Mhm.
and I know like you get it, and you're, so he seems to be very kind to her. And so
That's what I'm
that's like,
saying.
yeah,
She's in the middle, like, "Oh, it's a good marriage, but I don't know if it's the best match. Like, are we really compatible?" Maybe
yeah,
they're having fun times, but the compatibility on certain things isn't
right
there.
there.
But I really need her to dig deeper and have those heavy conversations with him because, especially, girl, you're talking about having kids or wanting children.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm-mm-mm. All right. So next we'll do Alexis and do we want to do Alexis and Justin right before we do Morgan and Ben? That might be a more seamless.
because they're connected for no reason.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay. So Sasha and Nate then. Uh I loved her conversation with her mom. I think it
Mhm.
was so sweet to see her mom take some responsibility in how she is, and like
Mhm.
she saw me go through a tough relationship, so I feel some responsibility. But just having the compassion enough for her daughter to be able to see her fault, I thought was really really nice, to see her accept
Yeah.
that. But I did love her advice of, yes, ask questions and probe a bit, but it should be I trust you until you show me things that I can't trust in you, as opposed to, oh, now you have to like build up. Okay, you get one trust point, two trust points, like something like that.
Mhm.
So I did like her mom's advice on that.
Yeah. I'll say I see it kind of both ways. I
Mhm.
think you have to have the right balance of building trust, just,
Mm,
like, over time, but
yeah.
also, like, you're not, like, deducting points as well. So I
Yeah.
kinda see it in the middle, like, it's a little bit of both. Because she mentioned how, like, in the past, she used to be very, very trusting. So,
Mm,
I think for her, it may be finding that balance of, okay, you can't be too naive, right?
yeah.
But then you also can't have somebody on a hamster wheel that they're never gonna make any progress. So,
Hmm.
I kinda see it in the
Both
middle
ways.
for her,
Okay.
specifically because her mom mentioned, like, "Girl, you know how you are. You know you control."
I know, and I don't even think it's that she's, well, it has seemed like she's trying to control Nate a little bit, but I
I'm
think
just saying
she's,
what her mom said.
yeah. But I think maybe she's used to controlling situations, so this is a
Mhm.
situation that's out of her like grasp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She really does just need to be patient, but it is hard. But you really, when she was talking to her mom, she said, I want to give him that time and space, but I also feel empty. And she needs to find a way to fill herself up until he gets to that point if she decides to stay in this marriage. Uh,
Mhm.
because rushing him to fill you up is now going to leave him depleted, and then y'all don't have what you want, which is him not being forced to say the things just because you want to hear it. You won't even feel, she wouldn't even feel happy if he was just like, oh yeah, okay, I love you.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I saw someone say online that they feel like Stasha is kinda treating this like a business deal, like, "Oh,
yeah,
well, this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and then you move this piece," and she's used to kinda getting her way,
yeah,
but emotions and feelings don't work like math, so
yeah. And other
it's
human beings don't work like that. Like,
mm-mm,
you can't put somebody into a plan and expect them to follow it like a robot. That's not
mm-mm.
how this works.
And like her mom said, it's only been a month.
For a full week.
Now, I did see where someone reminded me that on the honeymoon, he did say the L word, like, "Oh, yeah, I feel like I'm falling in love with you," um,
Hmm.
which I had forgotten about, and so I'm like, "Huh, I wonder why she was maybe that's why she was so taken aback by the lower rating and, like, where he was in the love department."
Hmm.
Um, and then later on, we saw he was like, "Oh, yeah, I can see myself falling like, I'm falling in love with you," or however he said it, and I'm like,
So I feel like, because people in our comments had a lot to say about this last week, I just wanted to address it because it was kind of not split down the middle, but I saw a few
Mm,
comments that said Nate is using this to get the upper hand on Sasha. Like, the more she says she wants it, the more he's like not giving it to her because he's playing some
mhm,
type of game. I didn't feel that way, but I did enjoy reading the comments and just getting another
mhm,
perspective, because I'm like, okay, if he does continue this, then I probably would feel that way too. And even though he said it this episode, when he didn't say he loved her, I think he was trying to meet her in the middle a little bit, where it's like, I can say I'm falling in love with you, but I ain't gonna say I love you. But if that holds you over, girl, I'm falling in love with you.
and part of me just wishes that she would've prompted him to say anything. That was just
I
so
feel the same
uncomfortable
way.
and awkward for me. I'm like,
Mhm.
he coulda kept that. Just
Yes.
tell me when you feel it, but
Yes.
I get he's trying to smooth her over, and he's the one in the situation trying to make the best of it,
Mhm.
but if you're not fully there, all this, like, I kinda said it, but I didn't really say it,
Yeah.
But you said the word, I don't know. I feel like it's creating a lot of confusion, but I feel like she's having a hand in it by prompting
For
him.
sure.
I don't think she should have ever, really, she shouldn't have brought it up again.
She needs to learn how to sit tight. And that's, I'm sure that's going to be a problem that we see later on in their relationship. I don't know if it's hopefully within the next 4 weeks, so I can be like, see, I said that's something that will come back up. But no, like I do think her not being able to sit tight
Mm,
will come up again, just because a lot of times people say, oh, the things that broke apart my relationship were things that happened in the beginning, like it wasn't anything brand new. Most of the time people
mm,
don't just completely change. It's something that just never got corrected over time. And I feel like
mm,
this could possibly be her thing if she doesn't learn to sit tight, whether it's the I love you situation or a different situation.
mm.
That's gonna come back to bite her relationship in the butt. So hopefully she learns and adjusts from that.
Yeah, and if Nate is the type of person to respond to feeling controlled, whether she's doing it on purpose or not, if
Yes.
he's the type to pull back, lash out, or be petty,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a recipe for disaster. And he just doesn't strike me as the type of person who is just gonna be like, okay, go along to get along. Like, yeah, I'll try to meet you where you are, but I just don't know how that's gonna work long
Yeah.
term. He seems
So
like the type to push back.
so I put down Luna isn't a trial run dog, especially not for Stasha, who likes things super neat. Like, I don't know where they thought, maybe they hadn't met Luna before. I don't know. But I felt like they had no business babysitting Luna. And it's probably
Maybe
gonna turn her
Newton.
off. Huh?
Why not Newton?
Well, Newton wasn't going out of town, or his parents weren't going out of town.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but
I mean, at least she's trying to meet him in the middle on like
the dog,
babysitting the dog. But
she's
I think
better
the
than
only
me.
reason she was open to it was because it wasn't her place. I could never see in a million years her bringing a dog like that into her pristine home.
Right.
Never.
To her pristine home. Yeah,
No.
even as Kristen was talking, she was like, this is a lot. And it was. It was. I'm not a pet person, so I'm like, Stasha's way better than me because I wouldn't even give it a trial run.
It's because it's not her place, and anything that's going to be messed up, it's not hers. That's why.
True. Okay, so they have the anniversary outing, and I have down that I like how he calmly talked to her about the things that he was feeling. So last episode, they kind of had a blow up about it, but this episode, he was very calm when he was talking to her, up until the part where he said, "You were pretty much an a hole," and I'm like, don't. Don't use those words with me. I don't like
Mhm.
that. I understand the point you're trying to get across, use a different word or
Yeah.
describe it differently, but not that way. But I did like his how he was able to articulate himself because he had maybe calmed down and thought through
Mhm.
everything from last week's episode.
Yeah. Yeah. The only critique I have is that I wish that the whole lawyer thing wasn't happening in conjunction with the celebration of the 1 month anniversary.
Okay.
I just felt like I'm like, oh, couldn't this have been a different day? So that could have been the focus, but it went fine to our
Yeah.
knowledge. Like he agreed to everything. And really, he didn't have a choice because had he pushed back on anything, it wouldn't
A
have,
one decision day.
yeah, it would have been a no on decision day and it just wouldn't have put him in the best light, I don't think, just from like public
Mhm.
perception. Like people would just be like, oh, yeah, we always knew you were going to be here for her
Broke
money.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how people be on the internet, they be so harsh.
So I'm like, all he could really be like is, yep,
Yeah.
whoever puts what in is what they get out. That's all you
Yeah.
can say.
But I'm glad that everything is recorded and was put out on national TV just in case anything goes south in the future. But I'm glad that it was very easy for her to get him to do that,
Hmm.
like, so that's one less thing that she has to be concerned about. So
Hmm.
I think that's cool. They got the
Yeah.
matching tattoos, which I mean, okay, if that's your thing, they're cute. I'm a Roman numerals girl. Like they
Yeah.
just look better to me. So
I like to live vicariously through other people
yeah,
with tattoos.
I don't think I would do that, especially not there. But Yeah, I wouldn't do it, but that's what they wanted. That's
Yeah,
what
I barely like getting my blood drawn.
people were like, "Oh, it's too soon to get a tattoo with somebody you've known for a month." What do you think about that?
I do find it odd.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Like to me, a tattoo, yeah, it's permanent, but people cover tattoos all the time.
Yeah.
You can get them removed. I mean, she got the money to do it. It's a thing now. So I don't know. I've thought that that was kind of cheesy a little bit. I think there are other ways to show your commitment to
Mhm.
the marriage and the process. Um, and then I don't know, it's the same thing with, I guess, her not giving back his last name if it doesn't work out. I don't know.
You know what's well, yeah, she doesn't have an attachment to her other last name, but when they said they were gonna get a tattoo and it'll be their anniversary day, I thought it was gonna be like so Jay-Z and Beyonce have the 4
Mhm.
Roman numeral tattooed on their ring
Mhm, the
finger,
ring here.
and so I was like, "Okay, that's really small, you can cover it with jewelry." And got the whole side of their,
Mhm.
hands done. That's a lot.
But if they do get a divorce, you don't have anything on your ring finger. So that's why I was thinking like most
Okay.
people when they have that tatted, like it's always there, right?
Yeah.
But it'll show, okay, you've been married at some point.
Mhm.
But yeah, right there, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Seem
It
cheesy, pointless. That's
All
just
right.
me.
Anything else on them before we go to Alexis?
I was just gonna say I meant to mention earlier that I feel like Stasha's love language is words of affirmation.
Mm,
Um, when they were sitting at the dinner table, she was just beaming and
yeah.
um, but once again, I feel like he should show her words of affirmation in
Mhm.
a way that doesn't lead her on to think that he's further along in
Yeah.
the I love you process than what he actually is. So big up your wife, in the ways that, would resonate with her. But
Mm,
I just don't know if him professing in front of everyone, like, oh, I'm falling in love with you. Like
yeah.
you had already said it before. I get you're making a public display, but it's like make that public display when you could be like, I love this woman.
And I forget, was it at the dinner table that she was like forcing him to give a number to it? Which remember we said she was a numbers girl. Someone tweeted, they're like, "Girl, love is not an Excel spreadsheet. Like this is not how that goes." But
Girl.
she was just like, "What number are you at now?" So remember, I was saying she's probably the type of person who like grades were important too because she
Mm-hmm.
needs to know that she's like not at an F. She's like closer to an A than not. So yeah, I
But
thought that was too much as well.
But like for her to be as logical as she is, it's like, girl, you do know that people can just say whatever to hold you over, even if they're not there yet.
Hmm.
So you want the words of affirmation to be truthful, honest, genuine, not just to hold you over. So
Hmm.
I really wasn't here for that specific piece, but I was here for him bigging up
Her.
like where they are. I did see her face when he was like, I'm more calm.
Yeah, you don't think I'm calm?
Yeah.
She was quick about it. You think I'm not calm? Like, girl, dad, can I finish saying the words before you jump in?
I mean,
Mm,
not much is going to get past her. I'll just say that.
not a thing, honey.
But yeah,
Okay, Alexis and Justin.
I don't know who's been more frustrating this episode. I mean, we know it's Ben and Morgan, but ooh, that Alexis is right up there with them.
Huh. So she said he doesn't know how to self-regulate, and that's frustrating. And so she has to do that for both of them. I don't get her. Like, I guess they need to have some type of conversation, but seeing how the conversations are going,
It's not going to matter
it won't.
because Alexis knows that Justin struggles with articulating himself.
Mhm.
And once she peeped that, and she also knew that she was checked out, but she's not going to show that she's fully
Yeah.
checked out. Once she peeped that, she knows that if I can get Justin to continue to try to explain himself, that
Mm.
he's going to get frustrated and lash out.
Hmm.
And so he doesn't emotionally regulate himself. Like that's the portion that she's talking about. But what she's leaving out is that he'll express himself, say something. And then
Yeah.
she'll say like 2 or 3 times, well, I don't understand. Can you restate it? And it's like,
Yeah.
girl, like 2 or 3 times this episode, she tried to say that she didn't understand, needed him to re-explain himself. When to me, what he was saying was pretty clear,
Yeah.
but she knows that he's going to get tripped up. He's going to be like, F it, I don't care.
Yeah.
He kind of gets to that point. And I personally think she's purposefully doing it. Like I already was feeling that a little bit in the previous episode, but
Okay.
seeing how she conducted herself this episode, where she was just like, well, I don't understand. And he said that before, like, no matter how I say it, you're going to continue to say that you don't understand.
She doesn't want to understand because she could ask questions. So if he says, I was hurt by what happened yesterday, and instead of saying, I don't understand, maybe, okay, what action did like, what did I do that led you to being frustrated with how things went yesterday? Like, she could ask questions that would get, but I think because she's checked out already, even if she is the type of person to think, how can I get a better
Mm-hmm.
understanding? She won't take that step because
Mm-mm.
she's already checked out. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
now it's like, well, he has to not only figure out what I don't understand, but then articulate it, which becomes a problem. Because when they're in, when they're by themselves, at least from what we see with the camera, I feel like Justin articulates himself well, like his feelings.
Yeah.
I feel like he's very clear on that. So I do think it goes back to that. He said this in the episode where they had the 90s party. She's like, she keeps pressing me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're right. That's when he gets all like jumbled up.
She's interrogating him. He also gets in his head because he's like, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So that probably jumbles up his thoughts and words even more.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, I don't know if we want to jump ahead to that yet, but like when they were at the table, I
Mm-hmm.
believe he said something like, when I'm no, when they were doing the scrapbooking thing together,
Yes. Okay.
when he was like, I don't know if I have time.
Yes.
She
Oh,
knew
I'm glad you said that.
exactly, she knew exactly what he meant. Not that I'm throwing in the towel, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my head about trying to fix every little piece and be perfect within a matter of another 4 weeks. And I don't know that I think the pressure of the time is getting to me. But she was just like, well, are you just saying that you're not going to try anymore? This is where I was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Girl, you know what you're doing. You know you've checked out.
Yeah.
And instead of you just being honest and being like, hey, I'm not as interested in this process anymore,
Yeah.
you're going to continue to bait him into situations
Mm-hmm.
where you know he's going to get flustered. Now, I'm not saying she needs to tiptoe around him. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that he doesn't need to grow in certain ways emotionally in being able to articulate himself. I'm not saying that. But the way that she even responds with this super stoic demeanor
Mm-hmm.
also probably throws him off too. Like, well, what do you mean, baby? Baby.
And
What do you mean, baby?
annoying. Like, if you're gonna have that tone calling me baby, you might as well call me everything but a child of God. Like, just say how you feel. Don't call me baby.
Her energy is just so, I don't know if it's stoic or what, but it's very strange where it's like, he's hanging on to your every word and you're just like, well, I don't understand.
You know what bothers me a little bit is that she's like, oh, I have to stay strong. Maybe she thinks that's her being strong for the both of them. But I think maybe she's giving herself too much credit and him not enough. And maybe not appreciating where he's strong, which is you don't have to second guess what this man is thinking. You know, because he'll tell you, right?
Mhm.
And you just have to try to be understanding. I see we need the experts where they at. Like somebody needs to help.
Also, other than the situation with Newton,
Mhm.
I'm trying to find out what else happened
Yeah.
because you let her tell it. They got all these issues and he can't emotionally regulate himself. I was like, okay, have y'all moved past the Newton thing or not? If you have, supposedly, what else has happened? Because I felt like I spent the majority of the time watching them, trying to figure out, like, Alexis, well, what all is wrong?
That's the thing. So Twitter was saying this too, because I actually live tweet the show, guys, on Twitter. So you guys can follow us there. I'll put it in the thing. I can't think of it right now. But Twitter was like, so what exactly is the problem? Because I feel like Alexis doesn't articulate very, and if we're having a problem understanding, like maybe he is as
Hmm.
well. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the thing with him saying, "Oh, I feel like I only have a short amount of time." And it was clear to me that he's afraid she's going to say no on decision day if he doesn't have everything perfect. Like that
Hmm.
was so crystal clear to me. And so her not seeing it, and she's like, "Oh, you're not going to try anymore." He was literally saying, "I am trying everything that I can." And I fear
Hmm.
that it won't be enough because we have a big decision to make and you might throw in the towel before we can even get to a good place.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think in that moment, I did write down that, oh, yeah, she definitely misunderstood. And like you said, it could be purposeful.
Yeah, I think that it is. And another reason why I think it's purposeful is because twice on this episode, she said if they weren't in this process, she would have been called it quits.
Yeah.
So now I feel like she's kind of bragging about the fact that I would have been out of this piece.
Yeah, it feels like she needs to have the upper hand. And I wonder if it is because Justin is a man who has like, who isn't as aggressive as she would want. I
Hmm.
hesitate to say aggressive because I don't mean that Alexis wants somebody who's like, trying to fight her. That's not
Yeah.
what I mean at all. But because he is more like sensitive and uh, a little bit more soft spoken sometimes,
Hmm.
I think that's what the issue is. Like she takes a lot of him for granted. Like on the after party, which I actually stayed up for this time because I needed to see what was happening. She was
Hmm.
like, at this point, she was still getting over the Newton situation. And she was like, but he wakes up every morning and makes her breakfast. Like he's still doing all the things. And so I wish she could be. Initially, she was seeming like a soft place for him to land, but like we said, she was going to get tired of it. And I think she is tired of it. And so she can't be that anymore.
That, and I don't think that she really wants it. She's just trying to weasel her way out without
Yeah.
taking the full responsibility of being the one who's checked out.
Mhm.
I feel like she's also sending mixed signals as well.
Mm,
It's like, okay, are you in this? Are you not? Because that whole scene at the dinner table, once again, she's making all these faces, which he
yeah.
can see you, right? And so I'll start by saying this.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that he should have pressed her when she was like,
Yes.
hey, I don't feel like talking about this.
Mm.
However, so he shouldn't have pressed her. He should have let it be. That's something he needs to work on. However, if you're gonna sit there and make all these faces, I understood his frustration. Say what you got to say. Because in his mind, I think he thought after the whole scrapbooking thing, like you
We're good.
agreed that, yeah, there's work on both sides, but we still have time. He was looking to her like you're making faces, so express some of it. Say it.
Everybody else expressing, like you saw Kristen, what she just said was a lot, but she said it.
And if you were feeling something, so I understand, and then even how she responded to the reason why she was making the faces, so we thought, was because of him giving Mitch a compliment.
Yeah.
Now, why is that the thing to set you off?
She said that he he was so like focused on Mitch's response when he has a whole lot of work to do. But it's like, just because you got work to do, you can't compliment somebody else on their work that they're doing.
And,
I don't.
and not only that, they were still kind of wrapping up their conversation. Like Miguel chimed in, like other people are chiming in when other people are talking. So I feel like she was kind of policing him in that moment.
Hmm.
Like I'm good. I have strong feelings on what you should or shouldn't say. And once again, I think he was thinking we had a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a decent place. We've had our places of up and downs. So then are you going to express some of that? And then, oh, if you're sitting here squinting and making all these faces, then say something.
Keisha and Napoleon did get her together on the after party because she's like, I was trying to protect my husband and his sensitivity. And so that's why I didn't say anything. And Keisha Napoleon was like, you didn't say any words, but you said a whole lot, like with your body language. But I also think with them having the conversation and him possibly thinking, okay, we had this conversation, we're good.
Hmm.
He was thinking based on what he said, okay, what did I do wrong? Like in between then and now, what did I
What
do
else has
wrong
come
to
up?
change that? Because you clearly have something to say, but don't want to say it. And another thing, sorry,
No, you're good.
another,
Go off.
I know, another thing is, yeah, she made the faces and then they moved on to another couple. He quietly, and he still shouldn't have done it because she clearly didn't want to talk. But he quietly was like, "Hey, what's up?" like,
Like, are we
I thought
good?
it was good. What's up? And he quietly said that, and she didn't really like respond to him. And then she goes, "Well, since you're asking me," and he's like, "Oh no, I was asking you, like not checking in with everybody." And she's like, "But we can all see you. I mean, we know what you. We can all see you, girl. We can all see you, and
In that
how
pink.
you were all." like what do you mean? So I didn't like that. Like, don't, but I'm trying to have a private side conversation. Don't put me on blast. like,
Yeah,
I don't
because he may have just been like, okay, are we good?
like a quick check
Would
in.
yeah, like, did I miss something? And she knows that she wanted to say it.
Yeah, that thing was so funny to me. Like, she really was like,
And,
her shoulder was to him at this point. She's like, well, since you're asking, and she like blew it up. And then he's like, you clearly
and
have something to say. I don't know. I think if her, I want to take her at her word. If her intention was to spare his sensitivity, I
mm-hmm,
think that is very nice. I think that's a good thing. I
mm-hmm.
do think, however, that she needs to learn how to do that because that was not the way at all.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, she needs to do better about that.
Yeah, and then even her whole spiel about, but I'm hurt. I'm hurt too, baby. It's like, is she acting like
yeah, you're cracking me up with the
I'm sorry.
of it,
But
but
that whole scene, I was just like, is this girl serious? Can you play? I wish you would have said, like, what exactly are you hurt about? We're all confused.
what is hurting you? She said when he can't regulate himself and then he goes and comes back and he says sorry. She's hurt that he couldn't initially regulate himself. And then when it was time for him to talk, which I don't think this helped at all, when it was time for him to talk, he was like, nah, I'm good. it's like, and he's like, I'm trying to regulate now. No, that's not how you do that either. Like, what?
Yeah, I just wish she would have said more. Like, is this when you say he's not able to self-regulate, is he cursing you out? Like, is it the outburst? Like, what exactly is he doing?
Mhm.
Because last episode she said he was shutting down. And this is where I'm like, you're all over the place. Pick a story, Alexis. Is he the type to shut down? And that's where he got jumbled in his words because he's like, no, I am expressive.
yeah.
I don't shut down. I say how I feel. And then now this week is you don't emotionally regulate yourself. And then you hurt me in the process. And then you come back and say sorry. So, girl, is he the type to shut down or not?
Right. Who was it that wasn't even getting the sorry? like he's actually coming and trying to, I don't know. They're clearly just not the right people for each other. I think he's not what she wants at all. And so she just needs to let him go because he's going to end up being hurt in the process. He already is, he already probably feels like just because you're a more sensitive man, that doesn't mean like you're not equal with your partner. It doesn't mean that you now have to accept some type of inferior position. And I feel like that's what she's in. Like she likes having the upper hand. Even when they were talking a couple weeks ago about, oh, have y'all slept together? And she's like, I'm not sleeping with him, whatever. Like she has the upper hand. On the after party though, she said that they attempted, but it didn't go well, which felt like shade towards him, like he can't perform or whatever. But that's what she has to say on the after party, child.
Wow. I'm gonna say one last thing. The
Hmm.
scene where she goes with Sasha and they leave. He was definitely venting to her, by the way. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's a good segue into these
Yes,
two.
it is because why was she in Morgan and Ben's business? Why?
Lord.
Why did she go and run her mouth? If her intentions were good, and here's why I really question her intentions, because it feels a little bit like she was miserable in her situation. And I don't know where Morgan was with the her and Ben thing, at least at some type of like stalemate or whatever. But she goes and she says this to Morgan, and probably, I don't know if she expected it to blow up this big because that was shocking for anybody, but she knew it was gonna affect it. But also, someone on the internet noted that now she's not caring about what she and Justin have in confidence. So, like, imagine your husband's on the phone with somebody, you're like
Hmm.
eavesdropping, at least talk it over with your husband that stays in y'all's house. But now, like, Justin's probably gonna be off speakerphone. He's not gonna be able to talk to anybody without thinking, is she, in the back, is she gonna take this and make some type of big scene with it?
Yeah, because she didn't care about the position it was gonna put Justin in
At all. She ain't
at
saying
all. And how that could cause drama for their own situation. I'll say this is just a theory of mine.
that. Hmm.
I think Morgan and Alexis have a lot in common, and it's beyond just what Alexis was running to her to tell. I think both of them were venting on the phone about their husbands.
Yep.
And I think Alexis was like, by the way, girl, he stayed calling Justin. I think that's how that went.
I would agree. I
Yeah.
would agree.
I don't think
So
she randomly was like, oh, girl, I'm looking out for you. Alexis doesn't even give me that type of energy. I think they were already venting about each other's husbands. And once she got with Morgan is just as frustrated in the process as I am,
yep,
she was like, oh, well, let me just
let her
plant
know.
this seed right here.
Because on the after party, she was like, "Oh, I thought I was being helpful," which we can get to. But she was like, I saw pain in her eyes with how she was going through the process. Oh, so you knew. So she came and talked to you about it when she's asking Ben not to talk to anybody about it. But yeah, so she was like, "Oh, I saw what I thought was hurt in her eyes, and so I just gave that information. I thought it would help her." She also said that she feels like Morgan told Ben not to talk to any of the other husbands because they're like a MAFS family. Anybody outside of that, he could have talked to. That's not what Morgan said. That's what Alexis said on the after party. And
Mm-hmm.
so Morgan could have clarified that. So until then, until I hear Morgan say that that's what she meant, I'm going to go on thinking that she doesn't want Ben to have any type of outside source who can look at her as less than what she thinks herself.
Well, let's take a step back because from what I'm seeing,
Mhm.
we don't still really know what was said.
We have no
And
idea.
if her expectation is that there are going to be no conversations amongst the couples,
Mhm.
that's already unrealistic. I think we know that Morgan has been checked out as soon as she realized that Ben wasn't that into her and that she didn't measure up to his standards as
Mhm.
far as what he expected in a wife, because she had the hots for him on the honeymoon. But I think as soon as she got whiffed of that, it was all downhill from there. And
Mhm.
this whole BSN thing was just like the icing on the cake.
It was the Newt situation. It's just
Right.
Imma just keep this and keep hitting him over the head with it.
Exactly. And so we still don't know what was said. He couldn't get a word in. That's
Ugh.
what also leads me to believe that she knows that there was nothing that was said that was extremely um crazy or against her character as a
Yeah.
person. Because if she had something, she would have said, you said da 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 da.
Yeah,
She
so
didn't.
two things. All the things that she brought up were things that happened over the honeymoon. So she
Mm-hmm.
said that, he said that, you feel like your family is more perfect than mine, which he probably didn't say that. Like I don't know Ben, but I'm sure he probably did say something about her family, but this is all stuff that we heard about on the
Mm-hmm.
honeymoon. This is stuff that they talked about. But firstly, I want us to talk about how she handled finding it and how she packed up stuff and left. That scene, because he was clearly confused. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, and so he's like, oh, is this something like we can resolve and like figure it out? And then she's like, I'll think about it. And so he doesn't even know why she's leaving. And then she gets to the door, turns around, and says, Alexis told me everything, by the way. And he's like, about what? And she walks out and slams the door. And when she's talking to her friend about it, she's like, I walked out, I left. Like it's something to be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Like I walked out, I left.
She that whole situation, she just wanted satisfaction
Yeah.
out of it. Like she wanted to um get him where she knew it would hurt him,
Yeah.
make him feel extremely uncomfortable, uneasy. Um, and so this conversation with the friend, see,
Mm.
this is why you need a friend like me, who's because if you're married, like if it were you, I'm like, okay, so what happened? When, where, how? What did he
Hmm.
say? What was the tone? And who told you? Do you
Yeah.
know this girl? Do she even like you? I would have so many questions
Yeah.
as the friend. The way the friend was just sitting there, and I get it's in a controlled environment
Mhm.
and they're filming, but I just wouldn't have been like, oh, it's so sad. As much as I love you, because you're married,
Mhm.
we need to, we're some detectives. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
We need to dig deeper. We're not going to take this girl's word. Did you go have a conversation with your husband about it? And what was your
No,
energy like?
she did not even
I'm
mention.
asking all the questions. So listen, don't even come tell me something about what your husband said or did if you don't want me to dig, because I'm gonna dig.
You know what's interesting is so she left and didn't give him the option to talk to her, which so she shuts down. And the first thing that I'm gonna do if you said such and such told me this, we need to get such and such involved because what were you saying?
Why
And
was my name
so
in your mouth?
right, and so Ben doesn't call. He showed up at their door. He shows up
And
at their doorstep.
it it just shows her thinking like, girl, he did with any lot. Y'all live in the same building. It's not like he got in his car and drove 30 minutes.
Right.
You said this, I'm gonna pull up, especially since you should have never told me who said what if you're not gonna answer my calls.
Hmm.
So she uses that as another reason to get upset. And I just went off.
Yeah, like you went to them because she gets there and Alexis calls her. She answers Alexis' phone call, and she's like, "And I'm sorry for saying your name, Alexis." And what's funny is she was mad at him for going to them, but it's like you gave him no options of who to talk to. He did the most logical thing that he could do, and then she says on the phone something like, "You need to leave their apartment and talk to your wife." Girl, you're not talking to him. So how is he gonna talk to his wife when his wife is over here being very petty? And Alexis is like, oh yeah, I also told Ben that, go and talk to your wife, whatever. Maybe you should have said that before running your mouth to her. If your intentions were good for their marriage, right? Instead of going to Morgan and being like, oh yeah, Ben's been talking cash crazy about you. Why not? If you're overhearing this stuff, y'all live in the same building. I'm sure you see Ben. And if you don't, you can talk to Justin about it. But she probably wouldn't because they're at war. You could say, hey, I think Ben needs to have a sit down conversation with Morgan about this because you can't be mad at him on the honeymoon for crying for his friend. And now you're more inserted than he's ever been.
And imagine how awkward that is as a husband. Your friend pull up at your house because your wife went and ran her mouth.
So awkward. See,
And I
Justin
wish
ain't
he
said
would have
nothing.
Yeah, he just sat there. I guess like could he even get a word in? Probably not. Between
Probably not. But
yeah.
Justin was the true confident. Like he, whatever Morgan, I'm sorry, whatever Ben and Justin have talked about, we don't know. We never knew really. Like,
Mm-mm.
because how did she find out in the beginning that Ben was even talking to Justin? It was probably Alexis then too. So like Justin has never said
Mm-hmm.
anything outside of him, outside of Ben and Alexis. It doesn't seem like Justin has said anything about what Ben comes to him about
Mm-mm.
at all. So the only reason why it's been getting out is probably because of Alexis.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. It's
Yeah.
always been her. Y'all let us know in the comments. Did we miss
Right.
something?
Are we putting two and two together and getting something other than four right now? Or like, yeah, because how else would she find out? So yeah, Justin has been the true confidant. He hasn't said anything outside of that, and so
And even still, even if she said like, oh, don't be telling them our business, like if they are cool now, I
mhm,
think there is this expectation of like, okay, you're gonna make friends within the process because your friends who are not in it already think that you're crazy for
yeah,
doing this. So I understand, like, yeah, you shouldn't be talking bad about your wife to him, but I understand also wanting to have someone that you can confide in that's in the process currently with you.
yeah,
And I feel like Alexis and Morgan have this expectation of Ben and Justin that they're not doing themselves. Like they've been running their mouths too.
mhm,
Morgan, you feel like you can speak freely to whoever you want. Why are you trying to control him? He already acknowledged the whole nurse thing, maybe the parent thing, the expectations,
yep,
but other than that, we still don't know. And he was trying so hard to be like, okay, well, what exactly did I say? And I felt for him because he was just like, I'm gonna just apologize and say sorry. I'm like, he don't even know what he's saying sorry for because she still hasn't said
anything.
anything. And it just shows like her level of maturity or lack thereof. She didn't go into that face to face, even wanting to have a conversation.
Yes. Sorry, I before we
Mm.
get to the face to face, the
Oh,
day
okay.
before when they showed her at her little boxing place, I forget what sport she does. What it martial arts or something?
Muay
Whatever she
Thai.
does.
Yeah.
So she's there and they're playing this music that's so like almost like a haunting type of music. I'm like, are we supposed to be scared of her? And she's like, I'm so ready for this conversation with Ben tomorrow. I have a lot of things to say to Ben. He's not going to know what hit him. He's not even going to see it coming. Okay, pause. You have a lot of
Girl.
things to say to Ben tomorrow as opposed to today when you could call him on the phone and have this conversation with him and express whatever you're feeling. So you want to wait until this big moment on y'all's anniversary. You don't want peace, you want violence. You want to come where all the cameras are, confront him, and really just like hound on this man. So she she
Yeah.
she knew what she was doing. She's a she was, I don't want to say
Keep
she's a
it together,
sexy,
friend.
I know, but she really showed that something is wrong. Like
Oh, yeah.
all jokes aside, something is seriously wrong that she needs to work on because it's been a couple of days. And instead of being a mature person and handling this stuff, so maybe you guys can have a decent anniversary. You want this like big moment where you're the center of attention and where you are like the star of the show. I did not like that. So even
Mm.
before then, I was just like, this is about to be chaotic.
Oh, yeah. She was like salivating at the idea and the thought of like ambushing him. Um, and so I don't know. I was just thinking, like, girl, I'm not saying that you go into this process wanting to be likable,
Yeah.
but if there were any chance of the audience seeing it from your perspective or
Yep.
seeing Ben in the wrong, like even if he did say something about you to Justin after the fact, whatever,
Yep.
um, the way you're carrying on is kind of negating all of it. Like I don't even care what he said at this point.
Right.
Like
at this point,
and
at this point, you're a bully.
yeah. Because there was a way, like even what she was accusing him of didn't match the
Response.
the response. Like the way she was carrying on was like, I caught this man in bed with another woman, or he was still talking to someone on Twitter, or he hit me, or
Yeah.
said something about my mama. Like the way she was like gearing up for this fight. And
Gearing up is right.
like, girl, he's still a man and he's swole.
Okay.
Also, is this the same woman who's like, I want to be called beautiful and I don't want you to see me as a bro as you prepare for battle with him? So this is you stomping up to him.
Girl, thank you. I was trying to explain this to somebody. I was like, she literally marched up, but stomp is a better word.
She stomped up to him like, what's up? And this is the man you want to see. You want him to see you as beautiful and whatever. No, ma'am. No, you don't. He said you looked icy, or however he said.
Drippy.
Yeah, you look drippy. And it seems to be fitting. The way she carried on this episode. You try to step to him like a man.
Right. You know what's funny? Because Ben is cheap, right? We know this.
But he looked good though. Like
He
his
looks
outfit.
amazing. He
Yeah.
got her, I don't know how many, maybe a dozen long stemmed roses. I'm like, I know his pockets was hurting.
He was just like, oh, that's $30.
Right. And then for her to do that, he's like, hey, so he has no idea what to expect. He's just like, it's the anniversary. Let me show up. I have this dinner planned, whatever. Or when they spoke to him before she came up, I was like, he has no clue. And so he gives her the flowers or tries to, and she like, her hands barely graze the flowers, and she just like, we're just so petty. Are you 12? Like, why are you behaving like this on national TV? What is wrong with you? And she's like, thank you. Just and then she's like, I'm here for one reason and one reason only, for you to explain yourself to me. And then he's like, well, and first of all, like she didn't even let him get a word in at all. Like, I thought you were here for him to explain himself. You're not gonna let him explain?
And she kept saying, and you better not lie to me. I'm walking up. Girl, you ain't give him a chance to lie.
Okay.
And like what was the truth? Like what was the point of all that? It's like she is in her element when she's in confrontation with him. It's like that's where her energy just like thrives. And when she got to the point where she said, no, you're going to stay in this process with me and see just how hurt I am, or whatever she said.
Yeah.
I was just like, girl,
that's where I'm like, she was giving, I'm sick.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's like, I'm gonna stay. I think he asked, okay, so what's next? And this is after she stormed off and had to talk to the producers, or they went to talk to her, and he came, apologized for nothing, just to get her back. And she's like, the second you start lying to me, I'm out. And I don't know what was going on, but I think Ben was like foaming at the mouth, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, he was pissed.
Yeah, that's a reaction of probably being like pissed, embarrassed, all these things. And so I just wanted to highlight that, like, I don't know that stuff was on him before it happened, because some people are like, oh, why didn't they let him? I think that was a reaction to to having someone belittle him the way that she did. And so yeah, so she sits there and she's like, he's like, what's next? And she goes, I'm going to stay committed to this process because that's what I signed up for. And you are going to show up with me every single day. First of all, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm an adult. I do not have to stay anywhere. And so you're staying to punish him for the next month, as if being married to you for the last month wasn't punishment enough. Like, you can't want so badly to punish somebody that you're comfortable with being miserable yourself.
Oh, she is.
It gives her joy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
She's like,
yeah, she is.
But you saw on his face as soon as she said that, he was like, so are we, like, is there hope for this to get better? In other words, I'm not staying if you don't think it's going to be
Mm-mm.
better if you're just wanting me to see you hurt. And then he goes home and he packs his stuff, which he
Mm-hmm.
was he it hurts my soul to see anybody be bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And then like somebody so sweet be bullied, because from what he said, all the stuff that she was saying was on the honeymoon. And then he said, and I talked to Miguel, which she didn't even let him finish. Oh, I thought you said you didn't talk to anybody. I thought you said you didn't talk to the men. Because I was telling Miguel about the people pleaser conversation, which was more his problem, but she
Mm-hmm.
had overcome it. But from what I gathered, she's saying that he lied to her because he would come home and say, "Oh, like the other people shared things, but I didn't share out of respect for my wife." And so I think both things might have some validity.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe in the larger settings, he wasn't speaking negatively about her,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like he was still venting to Justin. And I do think it's hard to say, like maybe he should have chosen a different person to vent to. And I think he should have respected her wishes not to talk to the other husbands if that's what she said. I don't think it's fair for him to not have any type of outlet, especially when you're like freezing him out like that.
Exactly. She had put up a wall anyway, so that piece too. It wasn't so you don't
Yeah.
want him to talk to nobody else,
Nobody.
and you have a wall up as
And
well,
you can talk to everybody
and
because
you
you
can talk
know
to
they know
everybody.
your business. Like,
Yeah.
so you're not even honoring the things you're asking him to honor about you. And you're just lucky that he's not calling you out on it, because you could have
Yeah.
lost his trust too.
Yeah. I also say I don't think it would have made much of a difference, because this whole issue is very minor in the grand scheme of being married.
Yeah.
Obviously it's temporary that you guys are all living there together. Um, and so I don't really think it would have mattered what it is. She's been checked out. She knew he wasn't as into her. Um, she had the hots for him until she realized that she really didn't measure up.
Yeah.
And she wants to talk about who's been lying the whole time while not taking accountability for the initial thing that really kicked this whole thing
Which
off
was her lying.
was her lying, but it wouldn't have mattered. And I don't know. I just kept thinking that whole scene, like, does this girl not realize that this is on going to be on national television?
I cannot, I don't want to say I can't wait for her to be dragged, but I do hope that it gets brought to her attention how ridiculous she behaved. Like, she really made herself look crazy. And I hate that they're even going to have to be in the same room ever again.
Yeah,
I want him to pull a Chris
yeah.
from last season, because like he said to the camera, like, it was just venting. Like I wasn't talking, saying anything different. You guys haven't even made enough memories or had enough conversations for him to have any new things to talk about.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think,
The
go
the
ahead.
only thing I could think of is him going to Justin and maybe saying something to the effect of, I kind of envision my wife to be this way.
Hmm.
And as like far as compatibility, I could see him saying something to that effect, not like, oh, she's this or that, or she's this or that, but like,
Yeah.
oh, I had the expectation of this, or I really wanted that. And um things have been different
Hmm.
than what I expected. But
Yeah.
even still, once again, her nor Alexis nor Justin nor him
Yeah.
have even said what did was it just a conversation itself, or was there a specific thing? The way she was acting was like you were talking crap about me.
Alexis didn't say on the after party either. She said to protect their friendship, she couldn't say it.
Mm.
But I think this is one reason why. Okay, first of all, in this process, the reason why they put the other couples in the same building is so that they can have other people to talk to about things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I'm still like, is it fair for her to ask that of him when these are the only other people who can relate to what I'm going to? Like, yeah, I can tell my family and friends, but after this process, my family and friends are going to look at you crazy if we stay married. So you can't go to your family and friends about everything in this process, but having people who are going through and experiencing the same thing is really helpful. So I don't know that that was fair to do. And he wouldn't have
No.
had much to say if you would have been a grown up and tried to get over this. So that's one
Yeah.
thing. And then the second thing is, here's why you don't compare yourself to other people, because Alexis is over here making drama for them. She has a lot more to go off of in her relationship. They
Mhm.
seem like they don't even really talk, but she and Justin have memories together. They're doing things together. You know, they're living a life together. So there's more that they have to go off of.
Mhm.
And so you have to be mindful of that. They don't even, they're still stuck on honeymoon drama,
Mhm.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's not,
And it's like, how do you even know this person really has your best interest at heart? Once
yeah,
again, you really don't know her. And then
yeah,
this process merges dating into marriage.
yeah,
And so in a dating process, you'd have your friends around and you'd be like, oh, I met this person and this is how it's going. People talk to other people during the dating phase. They tell their family, they tell their friends because
okay,
they're kind of like, okay, well, help me vet this person based off what I'm telling you.
exactly.
People tell other people this is what's going on. And then once you make it to a certain point, you get serious and then you say, okay, these are the parameters around what I can and can't share.
Talk
But
about.
that doesn't just happen automatically. So
Mm.
there's some growth that needs to happen on her part with maybe understanding just how the dating and vetting process goes.
Yes,
Just in a normal situation.
yes.
Put it in, oh, we all live in the same apartment building. Of course, you're going to talk to people
Hmm.
who live there.
She's
But it wouldn't
placing
matter
him.
because she don't care.
She's placing him on an island, I think. I can't talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. You also can't talk to anybody else. And that seems abusive a little bit to me,
Yeah.
because you're cutting off the support that you're isolating him and cutting off the support that others would be giving him.
Right. Because what if he says something to someone else and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah. She wants to be able to treat him however without any accountability. It's true. Like, she thinks she's justified based off of him finding out about her lie. Now, we said this in our first review about them, that he did come really hard. He really seemed remorseful after as well. So I just I don't
And I'm going to just say this. I'm not completely mad for how he came now.
know. Right.
There's clearly some things she's dealing with,
Yep.
and it might just be the lack of relationship, whatever
Mm.
is going on with her. And not everybody wants to deal with those types of family dynamics. So,
And we're seeing why a little bit, because whatever place she was coming from was really dark, and
yeah.
it could have to do with what she's experienced with family. So whatever therapy she might have gone to, it's time to get back on it if she's not still.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have talked about this for a minute.
Whew.
Let us know how you guys feel in the comments. I know that online there was a lady who was going and like trying to defend Morgan on Twitter last night. Like, I saw her under every post, like, he like destroyed the trust that they had together because he went and talked to Justin. And then by the end of the episode, I saw her liking I saw her liking the post where people are like, Morgan did too much. So it's like she can't be defended. But if you are Team Morgan, please,
Yeah.
please
Let us
let us
know.
know why. Give us another perspective to look at, and
Mhm.
let us know what you think about the other couples, especially Alexis and Justin. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Make sure to check out our podcast. Bye.
Bye.